and what I'm calling sort of the new vintage, maybe 30, 40 years down the road, the cards that the kids and the grandkids are going to be saying, boy, those are the ones where they look at it like the 52 mantles and the Honus Wagners, even if you want to go that far. A few players that I had in mind, sort of either players that are pretty much destined for the Hall of Fame or are recently retired or very close to retiring, specifically because there's two guys on this list that are about to hit some major milestones here in 2022.
I can
And
name
actually,
them. I bet I
yeah,
can name them.
yeah, go right ahead.
You're gonna say Pujols and Cabrera.
That would be it. Let's start with those two guys right off the bat. Albert Pujols right now. I've been watching a little bit of his highlights. Eddie, I've been seeing him pop up on highlights for a lot more in the last maybe week than I had maybe the last 3 or 4 years. He looks completely rejuvenated in St. Louis. Maybe it's the final year that is kind of giving him the little bit of the fountain of youth. But he looks great. He's 19 home runs away from 700, batting over 300 in only about 17, 18 plate appearances so far. But nonetheless, it's great to see him doing well. And I do feel like there has been a bit of a resurgence and an appreciation for him, not only among baseball fans, but I think in the card collecting community. What do you think about Albert Pujols in the future in the hobby here? What do you think he's going to land with collectors maybe 20, 30 years down the road?
Well, Pujols would be in my top 3 or 4 players that I've ever seen play in terms of just overall. I'd put Bonds number 1, and it's not even close.
Yeah.
Griffey would be 2. And then, probably somebody like Pujols. I remember at the 2011 World Series, I was at Game 3. Pujols hit 3 home runs, and he hit one still that's orbiting the Earth. It hasn't landed yet. He hit it so hard. NASA's tracking that one still, but he is a generational talent, especially if you look not only at his power numbers, but he won several batting titles early in his career. He could hit for average, power, MVPs, 3, I guess he maybe won, something like that.
That sounds right.
And his Angels years were not, they were kind of lackluster. So it put him in the back mind of a lot of people. And now this swan song that he's kind of gone through last year and now again, I'm going to come back again. His rookie cards have really seen a price spike, in the last couple of maybe, and that's good to see. It's deservedly so. He's going to be one of those remembered as, wow, I remember Albert Pujols, and oh my goodness, he was unbelievable. It's sad that a lot of newer collectors haven't seen him play at his best back in the, basically the whole decade of the 2000s. He was
Right.
the best player on the planet, so that was cool to be a part of when I was that age. And I own all of his, 4 or 5 different kinds of his rookie cards because I just think they're great.
Yeah, just thinking too that you mentioned there's a lot of collectors, a lot of younger collectors who maybe were either very young when Pujols first came up during the prime of his career, or just didn't get to watch him at all, and really only think of him as an angel. The one thing that maybe for all these guys that I think is going to be a benefit, and not that there isn't footage of guys like Hank Aaron and Roberto Clemente, or obviously even Griffey and Bonds. But these guys are really that first generation of like cable television was playing every single one of their games. So literally every game of these guys' careers is recorded. It's somewhere. You can find the footage somewhere. So maybe that's an advantage down the road for a lot of these guys where you say, man, I don't know what he was like. Well, there's about, 1,000 games, thousands of games worth of footage to go watch these guys. So maybe that is an advantage for Pujols and Cabrera going down the road for vintage collecting.
Yeah, well, here's your challenge. Go out and find archival footage of all 700 of Albert Pujols' home run. Put them together in a montage. There's your 2 million view video right there.
Exactly. Yeah, someone's already there's a Cardinals intern right now who has been that was their off-season plan. The moment that they got that he signed, get 680 home runs right now.
Go get them all strung together.
Yeah.
Cabrera's the same way. He's closing in on 3,000 hits,
Yeah.
and he's got 500 home runs already. He's again a generational talent. Last guy to win the Triple Crown, first guy since 1967 when Yastrzemski won it. So Cabrera has done some things that make him an all-time great, and there's no question. And so if you're one of those guys that's collecting and you're like, I just haven't gotten around to picking up their cards yet, don't sleep on it. Don't, I'll get it later. You'll regret that decision. I promise.
Yeah, absolutely.
Now's the time to do it.
100%. I think with Cabrera, I think there's a lot more that is attainable at a price that doesn't seem to me doesn't seem far-fetched for the type of career he has had. You mentioned all the accolades, the Triple Crown. He's going to be the 7th player all time, I believe, to be 3,000 hits and 500 home runs. And I think the other thing that's an advantage for both him and Pujols as part of that group is these are the first two that, knock on wood, are doing this without a cloud of suspicion over them. A-Rod is in that group, Palmeiro's in that group. So we haven't had a guy reach that milestone while having nothing against them, at least when it comes to steroids. So I think he's got that working in his favor for a really bright future. I think he's really underrated right now. A lot of his stuff on the in his singles on the secondary market, I think Cabrera is severely underrated
for sure.
Yeah.
And there's a lot of guys like that. There's this window of time that you have that we're in right now with a few guys that I think is incredibly important to take advantage of as a collector. And that's their window between retirement and Hall of Fame induction, because you've got 5 years you got to wait. And a lot of these guys just kind of, again, they're not making headlines anymore. So nobody's talking about them, and they're just not at the forefront of people's minds. So you've got Ichiro in that category. You've got Adrian Beltre is in that group.
Yeah.
Even A-Rod, A-Rod will get in the Hall of Fame someday. I mean, it is not a question of if, it's when. And does it take 10 years? Is he going to go the Bonds route where they have to, especially now that Big Papi's in? I mean,
oh yeah,
kind of opens the door for some other things to other players to get in that might have been on the precipice before, outside looking in. But that window of time where they're retired but not yet in is a great time to be picking up guys like that.
Yeah, 100%. Yeah, I was gonna say, I've got we've got Bond stuff all over here. So yeah, that's definitely a tender subject around here, the Bonds candidacy. But I think he's in the veterans. He's up for the veterans ballot for the first time this fall, and I've held out that I think that's how he's getting in. I actually think he's going to get in that first time. That if it's his former teammates voting him in, I think it ends up I think that's how he gets in. But
I don't think he'll make it the first time. I think he'll make it the second time.
Okay.
Which will be another 4 years, by the way. But I think he should be in. I mean, there's no question Bond should be in the Hall of Fame along with Clemens. And it's just ridiculous that they're not. There's a lot of guys talking about, Pujols and Cabrera. What's even more amazing is how many pitchers there are pitching right now that if they retired tomorrow would be in the Hall of Fame. And I think there's pitchers are so overlooked in the hobby just because they just are. And you've got some literally all-time greats. You got one guy in the window, which is Sabathia. He retired. He's kind of in that dark window. And then you've got Kershaw, Scherzer, Verlander, Greinke, Bumgarner. You've got a lot of guys that are Bumgarner maybe the most stretch of those,
right?
But Verlander's getting in, Kershaw's getting in. They could be done tomorrow, and they're getting in the Hall of Fame because of what they've done. Those are great guys to be picking up and looking for right now. I mean, when do you want to wait till they get in the Hall of Fame? That makes no sense. And they're all no-brainer guys, all clean guys. None of them have the cloud of suspicion, as you mentioned earlier about some players. So. I mean, look at what Kershaw just did the other night. I mean, he ain't going anywhere. He's still got it.
I do want to talk about two other guys before we
Sure.
move on to the next topic. You mentioned him earlier, Ichiro. This is a guy that I think is still, it's one, maybe it's because like his autograph looks so good that when you pull like an autographed Ichiro card, it still gets me as excited as like any player. He was one of my very favorites growing up. I loved Ichiro, just loved his style of play. Threw out the first pitch this weekend in full uniform. So he is eligible in 2025 unless he wants to play again, which I saw him on Sunday. He looked good form. He looked good. He fit the uni still. Like, gosh, if he wanted to play right now, he'd probably still bat like 270, 280. Probably
Right.
be fine. To me, he's a guy that I think if he's going to have a because I think there's something about him, not only that he was such a popular player, but it was such a historic moment too. Really, the first Japanese position player to become a huge star in baseball. I think that kind of elevates him too when we're talking down the road. Where do his vintage cards land in this pantheon that we're talking about? To me, he's right up there with Pujols.
For sure. And it's great that he and Pujols have rookie cards in the same year, a lot of the same sets. That makes it kind of Mantle and Mays-esque, right? The Mantle rookie is 51 Bowman. Mays' rookie is in 51 Bowman. So it makes all the 01 stuff really fun because you've got two great cards to chase after, not just one, which is like Kershaw and Scherzer, right? They're in the same set.
Yeah.
2008 Topps Update rookie cards in that. So that's just, it's kind of cool when the stars align that way for the card world and that kind of stuff happens. But Ichiro, inner circle Hall of Famer, no doubt.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, it goes beyond to me, goes beyond baseball, what he did, what he represented, and obviously to do what he did in Japan too, and be just incredible wherever he was playing and for how long he did it. So the last guy I'll talk about is a guy who's still got a lot of years in him, but he's off to such a good start. And I did a video on our YouTube channel where I was saying, to me, Mike Trout is still the number one guy when it comes to modern baseball cards. And there were a few comments saying, it's Shohei now. It's Juan Soto's going to lap him. Trout's days are done. And then Mike Trout, I think he's got a 972 OPS to start the season. I know he's day to day after that hand injury. So thank goodness it sounds like he's going to be okay. And we're going to see him back in uniform and on the field pretty soon. But yeah, to me, he is like in that. He is obviously among modern collecting. He's in that rarefied air where he is just like untouchable. Like if you want to try to buy a Trout card, good luck. There might not be a lot of options that are affordable at this point. But where does this go down the road? Like where, I guess for him, for Pujols and Cabrera and Ichiro, like it feels like, their floor of where their value is for collectors is it's pretty much set. And I think you should, if you can find some stuff now, it'd be a good time to buy if you can. Whereas Trout, I feel like even if he is, he retires tomorrow, I think he's a Hall of Famer. And if he ends up having the next 5-6 years, those stats are going to look even better. But I do wonder, like, where does he go down? How low does he go where his floor is compared to these other three guys that we talked about?
Well, Trout's always been an interesting case because, his 2011 Topps Update card has been one of that it's gone nuts. And it's one of those, it's a great case for current collectors watching current, that love collecting the current players. And for the last decade, Trout has been the best player in baseball. And it's not even close, right? I mean, it wasn't even close to say he could have won probably several other MVPs. I think they gave him to other guys just,
got tired of voting for him.
Yeah, it was all right. Not another Trout MVP, which is, I mean, look at the numbers. There's no question he could have been MVP probably in 6 of his seasons already, pretty easily. So again, best player in baseball. Well, he's not going to have the next decade's not going to look like the first decade. Case in point, look at Albert Pujols. Right. And that doesn't mean he won't be great or good or very good. I saw him hit a ball the other day against the Rangers that, good grief, it just,
oh my gosh,
rocketed off his bat and left the yard in such a hurry. And I just went, yep, give me Trout. I'll take Trout over. And I think Soto's of the next generation, like, because you can really go generationally, right? Or And a generation's about a decade in baseball. So Trout's the best of his generation. I think Soto, who came up, in 18, 19, he's going to be the greatest of the next generation that goes for the next decade. But the generations always overlap. You've got Trout still doing his thing. You've got these new guys, Soto and Acuna and Tatis and all these guys, that Guerrero for sure, that are making waves. And it's a great crop of young players in baseball. Probably the best we've seen in a long, long time.
Yeah.
Of this great talent that is playing baseball. Ironically, most of it's Latin, right? And that's great. You had Ichiro, who was Japanese, and Pujols, who was Latin. You've got Cabrera, who's Latin. Nobody cares anymore, like who it is, like where they're from. Can you hit a baseball or pitch a baseball or whatever? How good are you? I mean, I just love that baseball is such a diverse sport in terms of just players coming from all kinds of walks of life and backgrounds and everything. So sorry, I went away from the Trout thing for a second, but Trout is the man now. He will be the man until he's just not anymore, which again, I think might be 3 to 5 years.
Yeah. But at this point, I'm not betting against him.
Cards, I would not either. He's been, injury bug has bitten him a couple times, and that'll only get worse probably. But his cards, like you can still buy you can buy 2 or 3 Pujols rookies for the same price as a Trout.
Yeah.
That doesn't make any sense to me. But it's never made sense. It's never made sense that newer stuff is worth more than older stuff. And again, can you watch him now? And is he great now? And Trout is. That's why his card's still $2,500 for a 10.
Yeah, something like that.
2011 rookie. But it was $7,000 just about a year ago.
Yeah. So now it's a relative bargain, is what you're trying to tell.
That's what I'm trying to tell you.
Hey, thanks for checking out this clip of Wax Packs and Warning Tracks, Mojobreak's baseball card podcast. If you want to check out the entire audio version, make sure to follow the link in the description below, or better yet, subscribe to the podcast. Search for Mojobreak Sports Card Show. That's Mojobreak Sports Card Show wherever you listen to podcasts. New episodes drop every Tuesday, and The Hype. New episodes of that drop on the same feed every Thursday. 2 for 1. Who doesn't love that? Get both podcasts, subscribe wherever you listen to them, and of course, make sure to subscribe to Mojobreak Media here on YouTube. Like the video. We've got more great content about trading cards, sports cards, the hobby, and much, much more.